Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hello, and thank you for watching.
For the past few weeks, Central Square has played host.
Public property is that we have a tragedy of the commons issue.
Saying happy holidays, King.
Voluntary interactions where individuals are free to act so long as they don't initiate force.
This morning, we gather to remember Sergeant Tom Ball.
Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Johnny Ray.
And I'm James Schlesinger. Starting out tonight, New Hampshire likes to drink beer. At least that's what the Beer Institute claims.
In a story out of the Boston Herald, a lobbying group based in D.C. called the Beer Institute released data showing that per capita, New Hampshire residents consume more beer than any other state.
With a national average of about 28 gallons per person, New Hampshire downs a stunning 43 gallons of beer per person.
Sounds like New Hampshire likes to party, JJ.
Apparently. It's no surprise then that New Hampshire also has the highest sales rate per capita as well, and has held on to that record for 4 of the last 5 years.
The article mentions that some of the beer sales' success may be due to the relatively low tax rate, often drawing many customers from outside the state.
In more local news, we have another update from Ademo Freeman.
Ademo's motions for retrial were rejected after city officials sent the trial date notice to the wrong address.
Mr. Freeman published a video that describes the situation.
There were some off-duty cops at a bar, Strange Brew, that brutalized and assaulted a man and has essentially not faced any accountability for that. So at 4 p.m. we went out at Manch PD.
Any ID? Do you have any ID with you? You don't have any ID? Don't go away, sir. That's a lawful order. Okay, under arrest. Come on. David's under arrest. Let's go. Are you hurt?
Who did he hurt? Where's the guys?
Okay, where's the victim? Ask for ID from him. He was writing on it.
Hello everybody, it's Ademo with coplock.org. I wanted to take a moment and update everybody about my chalking gate arrest, which happened June 4th, 2011. Last year I was found guilty in district court by a judge and sentenced to 1 year in jail. 10 months of that sentence was stayed and 2 months needed to be served. I immediately appealed that decision to the Superior Court. After going through all the pre-trial phases, I was simply waiting for a trial. A date the court told me would be mailed to me and a phone call would be given to notify me of the date. As some who have been following may know, the court ended up not mailing me or calling me to notify me of my court date. In fact, they sent the letter to the wrong address, an address that doesn't even exist. Fast forward past 2 motions in 2 different courts with 2 different judges, both of who denied my motion for a retrial, and I now have a July 11th hearing in district court to decide when I will serve the 60-day sentence. And that's where this sits now. I've decided not to appeal, but yet attend this July 11th hearing. For the past year already, I've had to put off projects, jobs, and other opportunities because of the uncertainty that comes with these court cases. I no longer want to do that and would wish to move on with my life and be more productive. Yes, I could appeal and months later get a trial and maybe be found not guilty completely, or what's more likely is I will be found not guilty on 1 of my resisting arrest charges. And since my sentence was ran concurrently, the 2 charges really don't matter, so dropping 1 is no benefit. So for me, I am a victim of the prisoner's dilemma once again. I have decided that even if 60 days is given to me on July 11th, I will be out of the system sooner than if I would appeal and try to get justice. Since my jailing seems to be inevitable, I've taken a few precautions. Aside from taking care of my personal belongings and tidying up my personal affairs, I've decided to launch a campaign with coplock.org. It is clear to me, in my personal opinion, that my jailing is unjust and unlawful. If you feel the same, I am asking individuals to donate X amount of dollars for every day that I sit in jail. Your donation can be as little as 5 cents a day or as much as $1 a day. By following the link below, or in this description of the video, you'll be able to help myself while caged and coplock.org. The plan for the money is 50% of everything raised below $500 will be split between Coplock and I. If the funds raised go over $500, then 75% of the money raised will go to coplock.org and 25% will go to my commissary and life after jail account. Coplock would use the money to further its mission and advance police accountability. I will use the money in my commissary in order to write maintain, and have a jail lifestyle, as well as a little bit of startup money when I get out of jail. It should be noted too that while in jail, I will be put on trial for 21 years of my life for wiretapping public officials. This is a very convenient thing for the state that I will now be caged before the trial of my life. But I have the utmost confidence that the truth will prevail in that case, especially considering the state won't be able to ditch my trial as easily as they have in this case. And with that, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has supported me and the projects over the years. I appreciate it more than you know. And though this may be sad that I will be caged for an amount of time, pending my wiretapping case, it matters not to me. Whether I'm on the inside or outside, I'll be an activist. My mind is free. My conscience is clear. I have no regrets and have done what was right. And I hope people learn from these actions of mine and know that now is the time to stand up and do something about it.
So, just to summarize, Ademo changes his address. The city sent mail to the wrong address. The trial was held without Ademo, and he was found guilty. Ademo informs the city about the mistake and requests a new trial. The city rejects the request and will now jail him.
You got it, Johnny. We have another video from Cop Block, this one courtesy of Pete Eyre.
In the following video, Pete breaks down the entrapment model of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You may recall that about a month ago, Free Keene TV interviewed Rich Paul about his interactions with FBI employee Phil Christiana.
Rich was arrested in an alleged drug bust here in Keene. Later, at the Keene police station, Phil Christiana asked Rich Paul to wear a wire into the Keene Activity Center.
Rich refused to cooperate with the state employees and has been recently charged with 3 counts of marijuana sales and 1 count of LSD sales. Mind you, these are all alleged charges.
As we find out from the entrapment model used by the FBI, charges are often trumped up or in order to frighten the individual into compliance or punish them for noncompliance.
Here is that video from Pete Eyre.
CrimeThink recently published a pamphlet entitled Bounty Hunters and Child Predators Inside the FBI Entrapment Strategy. This video seeks to give an overview of the ideas contained therein. But first, what do you think of when you hear the word anarchy? Many, whose definition of the word is inferred only through the filter of government school indoctrination and lamestream media talking heads, may associate it with chaos or a might makes right scenario. In reality, the word anarchy comes from the Greek word anarchos, which literally translates to without rulers. Or to phrase it another way, no masters, no slaves. It's the idea that you not only have the ability, but the right to govern yourself. Yet decades of misinformation has caused the word to have such a misconstrued meaning, caused Joseph Sobran to quip, "The measure of the state's success is that the word anarchy frightens people, while the word state does not." It's important that we're on the same page about the definition of anarchy, as it's used extensively throughout the document FBI Entrapment Strategy. As noted by Terence McKenna, language is the most critical thing necessary for the continued evolution of humans. The ability to accurately communicate information, ideas, and feelings makes exchanges once vague, understood, and lessens the asymmetry of information. Moving on. The main thrust of the FBI entrapment strategy is to engender a security culture to safeguard yourself and your associates, thus making it less likely that the ideas you proffer are misrepresented by FBI employees for political gain. The authors of the pamphlet correctly point out, as anarchist values and practices become increasingly central to protest movements, the authorities are anxious to incapacitate and delegitimize anarchists. Why? Because the idea of self-government threatens the status quo. Quite literally, if we each realize that we own ourselves and are thus free to act so long as we don't initiate force, the need for an external government is non-existent. Order would still exist, but it would arise not from a top-down, one-size-fits-all dictate, but spontaneously, from the bottom up. It comes down to incentives. And the incentives, according to which FBI employees are acting, are perverse because they're sheltered from competition. As is noted in the FBI entrapment strategy, agents get funding and promotions based on successful cases, so they have an incentive to set people up. But why go after challenging targets? Despite a lofty mission, or the idealism of some new recruits, FBI employees, like all political actors, are incentivized not to satisfy their customers, but to grow their sphere of influence. If no real crime can be found, it's manufactured through strategies like entrapment. If there aren't enough real criminals, more actions that harm no person or property are deemed illegal. That's why it's crucial that you make transparent your peaceful tactics, educate others, and highlight the actions of those who are acting in the wrong. After all, it's the MO of FBI employees to use fraud and the initiation of force for their own gain. As is noted in the FBI entrapment strategy, rather than go after well-connected activists who would then be able to rely on a supportive community, agent provocateurs pick on the most vulnerable people they can find, the lonely, the trusting, the mentally or emotionally unstable, people who lack close friendships or life experience. The point is not to catch those who are actually involved in ongoing resistance, so much as to discredit resistance movements by framing somebody, anybody, as a dangerous terrorist. The aim of the FBI and corporate media is to ensure that when people see a masked crowd that refuses to kowtow to coercive authority, they don't think, good for them for standing up for themselves, but rather, oh no, a bunch of terrorist bombers. Recently, just prior to the kickoff of the NATO summit in Chicago, a trio of individuals said to be in possession of Molotov cocktails made headlines. Yet they, as happened to others in 2008 just prior to the Republican National Convention, were supplied the idea and ordinance by FBI employees. But for the actions of the FBI employees, such a scenario wouldn't have unfolded. Those arrested were painted as anarchists, and the so-called news acted as a shield to focus attention away from the systematic violation of rights done by police on the ground. As the FBI entrapment strategy points out, this kind of proactive threat creation enables FBI agents to prepare made-to-order media events. Such tactics have historically been employed by governments. In 1993, Waco, Texas area media was given the heads-up about a big event that was soon to happen down at the Mount Carmel complex. Law enforcement personnel were hoping to gain positive press after their botched handling at Ruby Ridge. However, the situation in Waco soon morphed into an incident that only reinforced and made more clear the failure of the top-down centralized provision of law enforcement. Unlike supporters of the so-called War on Terror, a misnomer if there ever were one, the authors of this document recognize that not every political target can be safeguarded, instead noting that our only hope is to mobilize a popular reaction against entrapment tactics. Yes, the court of public opinion is crucial. The world isn't as scary as purported to be by FBI employees, who again, based on incentives, thrive when such a mindset permeates. There are more good people than bad people in the world. Continue to have conversations with those in your sphere. One mind at a time, the belief that an arbitrary, external authority has a right to control one's life will be shed. No longer will codified double standards exist. As the authors of FBI entrapment strategy noted, always listen to your instincts. Eventually the bad idea of the state, and with it, the enforcement arm of the FBI, will erode away, to be replaced by institutions based not on a claimed legitimate right to initiate force, but on consensual interactions. Trust yourself. Live free. You'll encourage others, maybe even some currently employed at the FBI, to do the same.
Great video, Pete.
Yeah, I think just to comment a second, the quote I saw in that video, the MLK quote that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, speaks volumes about the Ademo situation, considering he has been in several times in Keene and in Manchester now. He has been the person to suffer great injustice. Burke is still a judge. He's still getting paid. He's still wearing the robe and telling people how to live their lives, basically. But yet he sent Ademo to jail for no reason whatsoever. And he's yet to be held accountable here in Keene. So if you live in Keene, if you feel like this situation isn't right, you should do something about it. Instead of just sitting there doing nothing, you ought to at least contact people that you trust and inform them of this situation. And that's the first step, as Pete said. Just informing people that some of these things are going on is enough to get some change. But changing gears for the next segment, we're going to revisit the ideas of alternative currencies. In last week's show, Allie Havens and Derek talked about silver and gold as alternative to dollars.
We take a look now at digital currencies, and more specifically the Bitcoin.
What is a Bitcoin, you ask? Well, this short video should answer your question.
What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the first decentralized digital currency. Bitcoins are digital coins you can send through the internet. Compared to other alternatives, Bitcoins have a number of advantages. Bitcoins are transferred directly from person to person via the net, without going through a bank or clearinghouse. This means that the fees are much lower, you can use them in every country, your account cannot be frozen, and there are no prerequisites or arbitrary limits. Let's look at how it works. Bitcoins are generated all over the internet by anybody running a free application called a Bitcoin miner. Mining requires a certain amount of work for each block of coins. This amount is automatically adjusted by the network such that Bitcoins are always created at a predictable and limited rate. Your Bitcoins are stored in your digital wallet, which might look familiar if you use online banking. When you transfer Bitcoins, an electronic signature is added. After a few minutes, the transaction is verified by a miner and permanently and anonymously stored in the network. The Bitcoin software is completely open source and anybody can review the code. Bitcoin is changing finance the same way the web changed publishing. When everyone has access to a global market, great ideas flourish. Let's look at some examples of how Bitcoins are already used today. You can purchase video games, gifts, books, servers, and alpaca socks. Several currency exchanges exist where you can trade your Bitcoins for dollars, euros, and more. Bitcoins are a great way for small businesses and freelancers to get noticed. It doesn't cost anything to start accepting them, there are no chargebacks or fees, and you'll get additional business from the Bitcoin economy. For your first Bitcoins and more information, visit weusecoins.com.
A crypto digital currency that is mined on computers. A striking departure from digging into the earth.
You have to admire the ingenuity of the marketplace, Johnny.
This next video comes to us from the Ridley Report. It is another Porcfest video in which Dave interviews a man named Roger who deals in physical Bitcoins.
Well, I'm standing here with Roger from BitInstant.com, but this actually gets a little bit complicated because you are better known in Ridley Report circles as the advertiser who advertises weusecoins.com. So anyway, but you're not with them, you're with BitInstant.com, and I wanted to know today a little bit about how you're at Porcupine Fest, about 3 days into it, and these physical Bitcoins are starting to make their way around the grounds a little bit here, and I'm just wondering how they're doing, how people are reacting to them.
Yeah, they're doing really well. Most of the tents here that are selling things already are accepting Bitcoins, and for the few that don't, as soon as I show them one of the physical Bitcoins, they're more than willing to accept these. I came with around 150 of these, and I'm down to less than 50 left, and we've actually had a number of people come back by and want to exchange them here, and they didn't even know that, you know, I was kind of the original source on the campgrounds here with these physical coins, so they seem to be real popular, especially out in the woods when cell phone reception is not the greatest and people have a hard time using their virtual Bitcoins, so the physical Bitcoins are a good alternative to that.
And you came all the way out here from Japan to
I came from Tokyo for Porcfest. I'm really interested in everything that's going on here in New Hampshire, and really inspired by a lot of the activism that I see, and wanted to come and see it firsthand in person.
Yeah, well, we're doing what we can. So the other question I had for you is, why is the markup is about what, 17% or so on a physical Bitcoin over the virtual Bitcoin? Is that right?
It kind of depends on the payment method. So the guy who actually makes these charges $1.50 per coin to produce them, and the price of Bitcoins in terms of dollars fluctuates. When selling for physical cash, there's no risk of chargeback or fraud. When selling for a credit card or PayPal online, the price is a bit more. Right now, these are selling online for credit cards for about $11 each, but in the campgrounds, they've been trading for between $7 and $10, depending on what people value them at that particular moment.
Right. I mean, as I was looking at them, I hadn't had one in my hand before until today, and I just thought, oh, Geordie LaForge, Captain Warp Speed. It looks so much more advanced, just by looking at it, than any of the federal stuff.
Yeah, it's protected by a hologram, and there's private keys there, and you can verify it on the internet at any time to verify that it's actually real, and does have a virtual Bitcoin stored on the physical Bitcoin address there. So it's much easier to actually tell if it's real or not.
And you actually have to crack the coin open in order to really turn it back into a virtual Bitcoin.
Right.
So it's almost worth more if you just keep it intact.
Right, it's worth about $1.50 more if you keep it intact, I think.
Right. So it's going to be a real motivator for people to keep them in one piece for a long period of time.
I think so. And eventually someday they may be worth $1,000 or more each, and at that point it'll be a real collector's item.
Well, they could also have numismatic value if they're not produced in large quantity for some reason, or there's a drastic change in the way they look or something like that.
I know for sure the version 1 I believe is limited to 8,000 units, and version 2 I think probably a similar amount, and we'll see.
Yeah.
The need for these is actually kind of declining now thanks to BitInstant allowing people to buy Bitcoins instantly by depositing cash at 7-Eleven or Walgreens or Walmart or more than 700,000 locations across the United States, Russia, Brazil. Soon we'll have all of the Eurozone, the United Kingdom, Canada, Mexico. More and more countries are coming online month by month, so Bitcoin's really just about to explode all over the world.
If enough people use them, then we're going to have a transition option when the other currencies collapse. We're going to have something that'll smooth the transition for everyone.
Right. There's all sorts of news articles going on right now about how the Greeks are terrified of what's going to happen with the euro in Greece, and a lot of them are fleeing to Bitcoin and buying Bitcoins with their euros before they feel it's too late. So, and I think that might be partially what's responsible for driving the price up a little bit.
Interesting, yeah, because I have noticed about a 15% increase over the last 3 weeks, so that's nice.
Even in the last couple of days, it's jumped up quite a bit again as well.
Interesting. Well, I just sold some, so maybe it's fully on me, but I like to, buy them and sell them. So
that's what they're for.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you had said that there was something new going on with BitInstant.com itself. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're launching all sorts of services. Soon you'll be able to instantly sell your Bitcoins and have US dollars deposited right into your bank account in a matter of minutes. You can already deposit cash at more than 700,000 locations for Bitcoins. We're going to be launching BitInstant credit cards where you can fund these credit cards with Bitcoins. Just more and more things happening all the time. We have 4 people from BitInstant here today, so we're really well represented here at Porcfest, and it's exciting. I think the Liberty community will be one of the earliest adopting groups of Bitcoins en masse, and that's I think that just shows that we're the ones that are seeing the world a bit more clearly than the rest of the world and realize what a wonderful invention Bitcoins are and what a great tool it is to take away the power from banks and governments and corporations in general and let people have 100% control over their own money, and that's the beauty of Bitcoin.
All right, Roger, good to put a face with the advertiser after all these miles of separation for all these months. But I thank you for your support of the report and for what you're doing for alternate currencies.
Thank you, Dave.
See you out there.
For our last segment, JJ and I are just going to shoot the breeze like a couple of TV professionals.
That's right.
JJ, you're leaving Keene and you're leaving the show.
That's right.
This is the first show that you and I have ever done together, and I kind of wish that it had been this way always, because usually I'm sitting next to Allie, and she's smarter than me and she's better looking than me, so it's like I kind of wonder what
Yeah, I'm just here to elevate you to the next strata, Johnny.
Yeah, I look a lot better. Yeah. Sitting next to you.
Yeah, you do look a lot better. But yes, I am moving on. Thank you for that, Johnny. I'm moving on. The show has been going for about 1.5 years. That includes some of the practice and some of the prep work. The actual episodes, we're only on episode 51 right now, so my last show will be episode 52, next week's show. And so I have a new producer that's training right now, and we'll see how things work out and if it's going to be a good fit for everyone involved. But at the moment, I'm just finishing up some projects. I have Porcfest Chronicles is a huge project that I've been involved with. If any of you have been to the Free Keene blog, you've seen me post Chronicles, and so that's been dominating my life at this point.
Tell me more.
Well, basically, we've showed some video here on the TV station, but I had 3 cameras set up at the recent Porcfest event and recorded about 60 hours worth of footage that I'm now editing into basically a chronicle of all the speeches, events, and musical acts that took place there, just as a documentary sort of way of collecting this and sharing it with the world, basically. So that's one sort of job, I guess, for my video production outfit called Starfall Media. Sometimes you'll see the Starfall Media at the end of the show. After the credits, you'll see a little Starfall Media thing. That's basically my startup, if you will. So what I've been trying to do is sort of tie up some loose ends here in Keene and then make the move to Manchester where I have a lot of new people to collaborate with and some projects. I have a lot of new opportunities that I think I want to try to make the best of, and I think it's going to be a great growing experience. But I've certainly enjoyed Keene thoroughly. Free Keene TV has been a blast. I've enjoyed having a lot of my good friends on, including yourself, Johnny, and you know, the people in the control room. There's been a lot of individuals that have been critical to this show happening because it is such a production. And you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention those individuals, maybe not by name because it is a long list of people, but I will take some time probably in the last episode to name as many names as I can remember. But so that's the plan right now, is basically try to keep Free Keene TV going under someone else's guidance and tie up my projects here in Keene, finish the Chronicles, and then move to Manchester with basically a clean slate as far as projects go, and just hit the ground, try to market a lot of different Liberty ideas and projects. And like for instance, Mark Warden, he's a realtor and a state rep. And I've been working with him to make advertising for both his state rep and his basically his realtor business.
Yeah, his website changed recently, didn't it?
Yeah, basically he was called the Porcupine Realtor, but then he found out that the Realtors Association has a copyright on that name, Realtor.
Realtor,
yeah. So he can't use that and call himself a realtor and be in the association. So he had to change the name of his whole website and his whole thing to porcupinerealestate.com. And so he's gone through some new rebranding, and I've been really happy to work with him on some of the video aspects of that and promote him because he's a wonderful individual.
Mark Warden is an incredibly friendly man.
Yeah, he's definitely a superstar here in the New Hampshire Free State sort of situation.
I met him in 2008, and if anybody remembers a couple of episodes ago, I got a little robust talking about naked girls. Mark, he tried to he put in a good word with that young lady for me.
Wow, that's a solid right there, man.
Yep, for sure.
Well, if anyone deserves a good word, it's you, Johnny. You've been an amazing friend for my stay here in Keene, and a great member of the cast, and so, of course, thank you. Now, Johnny, interesting enough, the guy brought up he was from Tokyo, and I was going to say that, Johnny, you've been in Japan.
That's right.
Did you trade Bitcoins while you were there?
No, that was I was in Japan. I was in Okinawa from 97 to 99, wow. 96 to 98.
What were you there for?
I was in the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Stationed in Okinawa 2 years. It was fantastic.
I bet.
Great time.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you have found the show to be valuable.
Please send any comments or questions to tv@freekeene.com. We're also looking for students interested in taking on a role here and gaining some valuable experience.
I'm James Schlesinger.
And I'm Johnny Ray, wishing you and yours, nothing but the best.